the Black Jacobins again tonight, and we are still in the last chapter of the book, chapter 15, the War of Independence. And we're pretty close to the end of it, in fact. There's just a few more pages to the end, just 15 pages left. So if you are not definitely joining in, so this is available to other people to see. Black Jacobin is a book by C.L.R. James, and it was written to analyze and report upon the only successful slave revolution in the Americas, which took place in what was known as San Domingo at the time, and we now know as Haiti and the Dominican Republic, primarily in the part that is known as Haiti. Okay, so we are now the French attack on to disperse slavery has really collapsed. But here we go. Quote, "There is no longer any doubt," my dear General, wrote the triumphant Dessalines, in quote, wrote the triumphant Dessalines to one of his officers in the South. Quote, "The country is ours, and the famous who will have it, the famous who will have it is decided." Quote. On November 28th, the day before that fixed for his departure, Rochambeau tried to come to terms for his men and ships with the British waiting for him outside the harbor. The British made the harshest terms, and Rochambeau threatened to land at Caratal and retreat to Spanish San Domingo, which still remained in the hands of the French. Dessalines warned him that if he did not clear out at once, the ships would be bombarded with red-hot shot. Since early morning, the furnaces at Fort Nicolet had been burning, and Rochambeau had no alternative but to surrender to the British. Out of 60,000 soldiers and sailors who had sailed from France, nearly all had perished, and the few who remained would rot and waste for years in English prison. On November 29th, Dessalines, Christophe, and Clervaux, Cassian was ill, issued a preliminary proclamation of independence, moderate in tone, deploring the bloodshed of the previous years. On December 31st, at a meeting of all the officers held at Gonaïves, the final declaration of independence was read. To emphasize the break with the French, the new state was renamed Haiti. Dessalines made an attempt to take Spanish San Domingo, but the French Revolution had never had any support there, and he failed. On October 1804, he had himself crowned emperor. Private merchants of Philadelphia presented him with the crown, brought on the American boat to Connecticut. His coronation robes reached Haiti from Jamaica on an English frigate from London. He made a solemn entry into the top in a six-horse carriage brought to him by the English agent Osborne on board the Samson. Thus, the Negro monarch entered into his inheritance, tailored and valeted by English and American capitalists, supported on one side by the King of England, on the other by the President of the United States. Early in the new year 1805, the whites in Haiti were massacred by the orders of Dessalines. All histories are full of this. A representative of the British government once threw it in the face of a Haitian delegate at a meeting of the League of Nations. He would have been more cautious if he had known the part his own highly civilized country played in this supposedly typical example of black savagery. The patience and forbearance of the poor are among the strongest bulwarks of the rich. The black laborers of San Domingo have had provocation enough from the whites to justify the massacre of 3 times their number. But up to October 1802, although they knew that slavery would be restored if they lost the war, poor wretches still retained some traces of humanity, and even then some of the whites might have escaped massacre. All that the laborers wanted was to be left in peace with the assurance that the whites would not seek to make them slaves again. But the clerk's letters tell us that he had resolved on a war of extermination that, in plain words, was the massacre of as many blacks as possible. The drowning of over 1,000 in the top harbor at one stroke was no act of panic. It was deliberately done. This started the race war. And Rochambeau completed it by attempting to exterminate the blacks and mulattoes as well. But the San Domingo whites, as they saw Rochambeau's policy and arms failing, turned once more to the blacks. Dessalines' moderate proclamation of November 29th reassured them. Dessalines even invited the white immigrants to return and enjoy their property. The blacks did not want their vote. Quote, "Far from our minds is such an unjust thought." The retiring French offered the whites places in their ships. They refused almost unanimously. Abominable hypocrites as they were, now that their last bid for supremacy had failed, they were willing to accommodate themselves in an independent black state. Why they were not allowed to do so was due not so much to the justified hate of the blacks, but to calculated savagery of imperialism. Let us grant freely that Dessalines wanted to destroy all the blacks. He had arranged with Rochambeau to protect the French wounded. As soon as Rochambeau left, he massacred them. But Christophe had certainly no such intention. All Clairvaut's history shows him to have been a man who did not harbor any such ideas. But when the Congress met at Genève in December, there were 3 Englishmen present. One of them Cathcart, English agent. They swore that the English would trade with San Domingo and accord their protection for its independence only when the last of the whites had fallen under the axe. These civilized cannibals, in their greed for trade, wanted to drive a wedge between Haiti and France to break all possibilities of unity, and instead of using their influence in the right direction, chose to make these propositions to a people exasperated by centuries of provocation and strained to breaking point by the Clerk's invasion of Rochambeau's crew. This is one of the most infamous and unjustifiable crimes in all this wretched history. Where there is no evidence, the Americans were probably in it too. Although, all through the Clerk's campaign, they took the part of the blacks, accused the Clerk of, quote, crime, treason, assassination, and sacrilege, of his perfidious machinations toward the, quote, unfortunate Toussaint, quote, and generally were consumed with that virtuous indignation characteristic of the Anglo-Saxon capitalist whenever property or profits is in danger. That the great majority of the British people would have revolted in horror at such barbarism, there is no doubt, as the vast majority of French after 1794 disapproved of slavery. But today, as then, the great propertied interests and their agents commit the most ferocious crimes in the name of the whole people and bluff and browbeat them by lying propaganda. The first draft of the proclamation handed to Dessalines at the Congress was rejected by him as being too moderate. The second, which met with his approval, struck the new note. Peace to our neighbors, but anathema to the French name. Hatred eternal to France. This is our cry. Dessalines was found in October 1804. The white proprietors still remained untouched. The black population, despite incendiary proclamations by Dessalines, inciting them against the whites, did not molest them at all. In January, the command was issued to massacre them all. But even then, no Holocaust took place. In February and March, Dessalines undertook a campaign against the French in San Domingo. He besieged Santo Domingo, and on the 22nd day of the siege, the town was about to fall into his hands, when a French squadron appeared in the harbor, commanded by Admiral Messier. At the same time, the rumor ran that another French squadron was in the harbor of Genève. Dessalines, feeling that Haiti was menaced, raised the siege and hurried back home. It was then that complete massacre took place. The population, stirred to fear at the nearness of the counter-revolution, killed all with every possible brutality. After the first slaughter, Dessalines issued a proclamation promising pardon to all who were in hiding. They came out and were immediately killed. Yet Dessalines took great care to protect the British and the American rights, and spared also the priests, the skilled workmen, and officers of him. Toussaint had written to Bonaparte asking for just such persons as these to help. And even the fierce, uncultured Dessalines, though with the marks of whips on his skin, would have been willing to let bygones be bygones if there had been any semblance of good feeling or generosity on the other side. This is not idealism. We have Bonaparte's letter. He was about to direct his energies to the east. He was willing to let Toussaint govern them. And at St. Helena, he confessed that the expedition had been a mistake and it should have ruled the island through Toussaint Louverture. He had been convinced at last by the only argument that Imperialists understood. The massacre of the whites was a tragedy, not for the whites, but these old slave owners who had burnt a little powder in the body, basically who was it's a description of a bunch of really horrible atrocities. They had put dynamite in trees, not a lot of people had exploded them, buried them alive for insects, buried black people for insects to eat. It's these slave owners who had done these atrocities to slaves, who were also well treated by Toussaint, and who, as soon as they got their chance, began their old cruelties again. For these, there is no need to waste one here and after. The tragedy was for the blacks and the mulattoes. It was not policy, but revenge, and revenge has no place in politics. The whites were no longer to be feared, and such purposeless massacres degrade and brutalize the population, especially one which was just beginning as a nation and had so bitter a past. The people did not want it. All they wanted was freedom and independence. And independence seemed to promise them. Christophe and the other generals strongly disapproved. Had the British and Americans thrown their weight on the side of humanity, Dessalines might have been purged. As it was, Haiti suffered terribly from the resulting isolation. Whites were banished from Haiti for generations, and the unfortunate country ruined economically, its population lacking in social culture, and its inevitable difference would be doubled by this massacre. That the new nation survived at all is forever to its credit, for if the Haitians thought that imperialism was finished with them, they were mistaken. And I'm going to stop there. There is more to read from this book. And stop at this point. And say, I love you, brother. Sleep tight. You don't let the chapter start. Didn't I let you?